Hello and welcome back. In this section, we shall learn how to reduce our problems, literally with the reduce function in Python. If you ever wanted to combine a list of values into a single result, like summing, multiplying, or finding the maximum, then the reduce function is your best friend. Let's break it down together. But first, who am I to talk about this? My name is Juma Shafara, and I'm a data scientist at Raising the Village and instructor at Data Idea. I've taught hundreds of people programming for data science, and my goal is to make data science concepts accessible and easy for you to understand by covering them in a simple and intuitive way. If that is interesting, consider subscribing or following so that you get content like this that I'm making recommended to you. Alright, then, let's jump in. So, what is the reduce function? The reduce function is not built in like map or filter, but it lives in the functools module. By the way, we have videos covering map and the filter functions on the channel, so you can check them out if you never used them or if you like to understand them. So, back to reduce function. The way we use the reduce function is we say from functools import reduce, and then we can use the reduce function by saying reduce, and then it takes in one, a function, and then two, it takes in an iterable object, and then finally it takes in an initializer. This is actually optional. Now, the function that it takes in usually takes in two arguments. And then the iterable can be a list, a set, a tuple, etc. And then the initializer is an optional starting value. Now, how does it work? It works by applying the function cumulatively to the items in the iterable object. In other words, it reduces the iterable to a single value. Let's try, for example, adding a list of numbers. If we have some numbers like these, maybe 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay, and we wanted to get the sum of all the numbers. If you don't use a reduce function, probably you will do maybe total is equals to 0, and then you can say maybe for number in the numbers, okay, and then you can do the total is equal to the summation of all the numbers, and this is correct because if we print out the total at the end of the day, we'll see that the total is 10. However, we can write more efficient code by using the reduce function. Okay, so for example, we shall say from functools import reduce, and then we shall say if we have the numbers as up here, then we can do reduce, and then we pass in a function. So I'll use a lambda function for this sample, then I'll say x takes in x, and also it takes in y, so x and y, and then what it returns is the summation of x and y. Okay, and then this function takes in also the numbers. Okay, so we're passing in a lambda function to add the two numbers, and also we are taking in the numbers list that we shall be adding. Okay, so if I store this outcome into a variable maybe called result, we shall see that if we print result, it will be the same, 10, but now our code is cleaner and more efficient. Okay, so to understand what has just happened, is we have this function taking in each pair of the numbers. So it takes in 1 and 2, and then it adds them to become 3, and then the result will be a new list where we have 3, 3, and 4. And then it will do 3 plus 3 again, and then it will be 6, and then the result is a 6 and 4, and then we shall have the 6 plus 4, which results into a 10. Once there is only one value left, then the function will return that value. Okay, this is really nice. We can also use this to multiply. Okay, so if we have some numbers like this and we want to get the product of all the numbers, we can say result is maybe equal to reduce. Okay, and then we can build maybe a multiply function here. Again, I'm using a lambda function, but you can use also a named function. In fact, let's use a named function. So let's just do here def add, and then this one will take in a and b, and then it will return a times b. Okay, and then we can do reduce add. Okay, and then we can also pass in the numbers that we want to add. Really simple, like that. Now if we print the result, we shall see that this is the product of all the numbers in this list. So this reduce function is a very handy tool. Now remember we talked about this optional initializer value. Let's look at it. Assume with our first example here, which I will just copy and paste somewhere at the bottom here, we can pass in an optional value, which is an initial value. What will happen is that when the reduce function is adding up all these numbers, it will begin with 10 plus 1 and then plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. So the result, if I run here, will be 20. So 10 plus 1 is 11, plus 2 is 13, plus 3 is 16, plus 4 becomes 20. This is an optional value, but you may want to add it for some reason. Now let's say you want to find the maximum value maybe in a given list. So let's have maybe a list of numbers as maybe 4, 8, maybe 1, maybe 6, maybe 10, and maybe 3. And then our goal is to find the maximum value. We can say reduce, okay, and then we can pass in the lambda, okay, and this one takes in two values, x and also takes in y, and what it will do is we shall compare if one value is greater than another value, and then we return that value. Otherwise we return the other value. So we take in these numbers in pairs. So what we'll do, we shall say, well, let's return x if x is greater than y. Otherwise let's return y. So with this we shall pass in 4 and 8, and for this context 8 will be returned, and then we shall go to 8 and 1, and then 8 will be returned, and then 8 and 6, then 8 will be returned, then 8 and 10, then 10 will be returned, then 10 and 3, 10 will be returned. So we pass in this lambda function, and then finally we pass in the numbers from which we'll be comparing. So let's run and confirm that we can get the result, which we shall store here like this. And then if we print result, we should confirm that the value is 10. Nice. Now there's a bunch of things we can do with the reduce function, but to summarize up for what we have learned today is we can use the reduce function to apply functions cumulatively to a sequence, and also this reduce function is part of the functools module, and it's great for combining, aggregating, and processing sequences. Now as an exercise for you, try to compute the factorial of a number using the reduce function. Alright, so if you found this video useful for you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends so that they can also get access to content like this that I'm making. Alright, thank you for now, and bye.